I am generally a huge proponent of keeping a GRE error log, but keeping a bad one is maybe worse than not keeping one at all. I'm Erika with Target Test Prep, and today I'm going to show you how I error log with a real GRE example question. In my decade teaching this test, I have seen a lot of pretty popular GRE error log templates that I think are genuinely a waste of your time and might actually make your score worse. I want to save you from that. Before I jump into my example problem, let's make sure we're clear on the purpose of error logging. To some extent, error logging is useful for organization and categorization. By putting missed questions all in one place, it can be easier to spot patterns. For example, I'm getting a lot of reading comprehension questions wrong. I am missing a lot of notably easy inequalities and absolute value questions. I'm spending too much time on word problems or answering too quickly on number properties. And if you have content-specific weaknesses, this can be super helpful with identifying them and targeting your study to address them, which is great. But with a lot of error logs, this is all the benefit you get out of them because all you're logging is the problem's location, its stats, and your stats, which is unfortunate because it is just the tip of the iceberg in terms of error logging's usefulness. The rest of the value takes a little bit more work because it comes from analysis. This analysis comes from three questions. What, or what mistake did I make? Why, or why did I make that mistake? And finally, how, and this one's a two-parter. How do I recognize an opportunity to make the same mistake in another problem? And how do I avoid it? Now, at every level, we have the opportunity to answer superficially and move on. What did I do wrong? I made a careless error. Why did I do it? I was being careless. How do I avoid it? I should stop being careless. But this is almost as useless as an error log with zero analysis. Engaging with these questions is where the benefits actually lie, by allowing for further categorization and deeper insights into patterns and yielding powerful strategies that can meaningfully change future performance. Let's take a look at that example question. The problem I have here is in the Target Test Prep program, and I'm going to error log it using the built-in TTP error log tool. But these principles apply to any error log format, whether it's in a test prep program, an Excel spreadsheet, or a physical notebook. So this is a medium difficulty problem, and looking at it, you'd maybe superficially think, I'm struggling with exponents. But let's explore this a little more. If I look at the video solution, I see that it calls out a misapplication of exponent rules as a common mistake, assuming we can add or subtract the exponents of terms with common bases rather than factoring until the numbers are small enough that we can manually add or subtract them. And again, superficially, I might go, gotcha, that's what I need to work on. But that's not what I did. So I look at it step by step. I see, okay, we factor out a GCF, or greatest common factor, of 2 to the 10 on top. That's what I did. Except, wait, hold on. I only have a 2 to the 1 plus 2 to the 2 in my parentheses. I completely missed that plus 1 at the beginning, which gave me a 6 instead of a 7 in my parentheses, such that when I reduced 2 to the 10 over 2 to the 8 down to 2 to the 2 or 4, I got 4 times 6 equals 24, when I should have had 4 times 7 equals 28. Now, at this point, it's tempting to say, got it. I made a careless math mistake. Next time, I'll be more careful and move on. But let's fight that urge. Why was I missing that plus 1? Well, when I factored 2 to the 10 out of 2 to the 11 and 2 to the 12, I knew it left 2 to the 1 and 2 to the 2 behind. But when I factored 2 to the 10 out of 2 to the 10, I forgot that when I factor a term out of itself, I have to leave a plus 1 behind. Maybe this is something I do frequently. If so, this is what I need to practice, remembering to leave a plus 1 behind when factoring a term out of itself. So not really an exponent issue, but rather an issue with factoring out GCF. I wouldn't have realized that without this process. All right, but maybe this isn't something I do frequently. I'm usually pretty good at remembering my plus 1s. Okay, well, why didn't I do it here? Well, maybe I got extra confused on this problem because terms are usually in descending order from largest to smallest, leaving the smallest term, the one that typically leaves behind a +1, at the end. In this problem, the terms are in ascending order, meaning that the +1 is at the beginning. Maybe my usual process involves checking for a +1 at the end, which would, of course, fail in a problem like this one. In that case, I need to devise a new process that supports a wider variety of problem formats. So my problem wasn't exponents, but it also wasn't really conceptual understanding of factoring out GCF. It's more a process and strategy issue with executing factoring out GCF. Okay, at this point, I have a good understanding of my mistake, so I can start error logging. The TTP error log tool prompts me with, why do I think I chose this answer? I pick, I made a careless math mistake. This will help me later in identifying whether careless math mistakes in general are a pattern for me. But I'm not done. Now I move on to the learning journal, which is where I'll explore my questions further. So I know what I did. I made a careless math mistake. Why did I do that? Well, I neglected to leave behind a +1 when factoring a term out of itself, and I got confused because the terms were not in descending order. Okay, how can I identify a problem where I could make this mistake again? Well, it won't necessarily be an exponent problem. It could be any problem with GCF factoring. It can involve variables, factorials, etc. It will involve factoring a term from itself, and it may specifically involve terms that aren't presented in a classic descending order. All right, once I've identified that I'm dealing with a similar scenario, how do I avoid making this mistake? Well, maybe as I factor, I'll make a point to touch the term I'm factoring with my pen before writing down the new factored term as a physical reminder that each term needs a corresponding factored term. And after I'm done factoring, I'll count my terms to make sure that I have the right number. Here I had 2, but a quick check would have told me I needed 3, allowing me to fix my mistake. I now have a much better understanding of the actual issue I had in this problem and how to fix it than I would have otherwise. And on top of that, I have extremely detailed strategy-oriented notes that I can review in later sessions to ensure I don't continue to make the same mistakes. Now, a lot of people see this process in action and they go, this is going to take so long. I'm not going to be able to do as many problems. To which I say, good. You shouldn't be doing more problems if you're just going to make the same mistakes. You need to fix them by way of error logging first. I would rather you do 90% fewer problems and actually genuinely learn from each one. A good rule of thumb is to spend as much time error logging and reviewing as you do actually practicing the problems. I guarantee you will get more out of your study time. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions or suggestions for future videos. I know a lot of people struggle specifically with error logging verbal questions. Maybe you'd like a part 2 on that? In any case, if this video helped you, give it a like and subscribe for more like it on Wednesdays. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.